Now, with The Dark Knight Rises just around the corner, I thought to compensate this, I review all of the live action Batman films from Tim Burton to Schumacher to Christopher Nolan. And just one or two things I want to point out. Firstly, I'm not going to review the Adam West Batman or the animated cartoon films that came out as well, because they're different to the live action sort of Batman films and tend to be more followed by a TV series or maybe a graphic novel. And secondly even, this video is going to be quite long than my other review, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Now, Tim Burton was probably the first director to take a hold of the Batman universe. And there was one thing clear after he did the second one. He did not read probably any Batman comic ever. He probably heard about the character or whatnot, heard maybe some of the stories, but he wasn't really a fan, and it really shows. But let's first talk about Batman. Batman is probably one of Tim Burton's greatest films, and probably one of like the best sort of comic book films sort of ever made. Yes, Michael Keaton probably was an okay choice for Bruce Wayne and Batman, but he played more of a better Batman than Bruce Wayne. Commissioner Gordon in the film was just terrible. Like the actor that played him, like he was completely useless. And also Harvey Dent. Like I'm sorry, you can't have like this actor playing Harvey Dent, because you know who Harvey Dent ends up becoming. You know, Two-Face. And I just why? But other than that, the star of the show really was, you know, Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Or basically, this film should have been a Joker film, because it was all about Joker. You know, like, yeah, Batman is the star of the show, but the Joker really did steal the show, because his performance was just amazing, and this probably helped Jack Nicholson's career tenfold. But let's be honest though, also Kim Basinger did play Vicky Vale, and yeah, she was good in it, but you know, it didn't really have much to do. And with, you know, the Joker and Bruce Wayne kind of like head over heels for her, you know, it's kind of understandable that her only job in this whole film, to be honest, was just to be the pretty one, basically. And now we move over to Batman Returns. This is Tim Burton's sequel to Batman, the second live action film, and it took Batman in a completely different direction again. More this time on Tim Burton's style, because Warner Bros. Decided, let's give Tim Burton full control of the film. They lived to regret it, and we'll see why in a minute. Again, Michael Keaton returns as Batman, mostly, and also the actor that plays Commissioner Gordon. I also forgot to mention about Alfred, like the actor that plays Alfred. He's just awesome in the film, and he's awesome also in the Joe Schumacher films as well. But again, they took this in a completely different direction, because for one, Batman was killing a lot of the goons, and Batman doesn't kill. I know he killed in the past in the comics, but to be honest, Batman does not kill. Secondly, Gotham was much more darker. There was a lot more sort of death improvised, and also this is kind of where you kind of see a bit of a rehash of some of the stories and whatnot. Also, it had the Tim Burton feel. You know, I think they had this like one guy, this sort of maker that wanted to control this plant or whatnot, also helping Penguin from there. He kind of looked like what Johnny Depp would look like if he was a bit older, and was like if Tim Burton was his fashion icon. But I think literally the star of the show, again, it's a villain, right? Or two villains. Firstly, I know they kind of changed Penguin in this film. Like he wasn't the sort of the Penguin that we know, you know, kind of like the gangster business type, you know. Instead he was treated like kind of a monster, and I'm sorry, but what? No, that's not the Penguin. But Danny DeVito, with the things that he had, made a really good Penguin. I would like to see him as the Penguin in future Batman films, but a bit more sort of business, and you know, more business type and less monster type. But you know it, the star of the show really is Catwoman, who is played by Michelle Pfeiffer. Again, they did, I think that the only thing I can give praise for Tim Burton is they tried to keep true to Catwoman as much as they could. Because yes, Batman and Catwoman have a sort of sexual tension with one another, but they made her kind of more of like a psychopath, and I don't believe Catwoman is a psychopath. In fact, she's not a psychopath. But it was kind of like crazy and stupid, but you know, the suit was literally every boy's wet dream. Let's be honest here. Although I was young at the time, and this ain't really differently now, but you know, at the time, you know, who would say? But this was quite controversial because for kids who did like Batman, they couldn't go and see this film because of how dark and how, you know, a lot of killing and whatnot, and parents did not like this film for that reason. But this isn't really as good as Tim Burton's first Batman film. With Tim Burton not directing the third film, they decided to kind of take Batman in a completely new direction, but it wasn't necessarily a reboot, it was more just following up from Tim Burton's films. So they got a recast for Batman, this time with Val Kilmer. I don't think he was a good Bruce Wayne. I think he was a good Batman, but you know, we'll get to more why probably he doesn't get much credit as he does. But Gotham's side did completely change. It wasn't as sort of like old sort of gangsters. Now it's more kind of like with the 90s and whatnot. And because this was like technology, you were able to see a lot more of Gotham. But you also got to see a lot more neon lights in Gotham as well. And oh god, really, this is when you start to realise that Batman was going in a completely different direction, and it was also going in a completely wrong direction as well. I've got to say, like, oh god, like, Commissioner Gordon is back in the film, and it's played by the same actor. I've got to probably put this out the way, he's also in Batman and Robin, and he basically does absolute shit nothing in this film. Basically shit nothing. But they did introduce one of my favourite characters or villains in the Batman universe, and that's Two-Face. And I've got to say that was not Two-Face in this film. Tommy Lee Jones, you know, he's a good actor, he's a really good actor, but he shouldn't really play this role. This wasn't Two-Face that I know of. He just seemed to be just a guy that got scarred halfway and just decided to become crazy. Like, he just decided, you know what, I've got this monstrous side face, I think I'm just going to rob people, kill people, do all the shit I want. And this coin flipping thing, I'll do it occasionally and it'll be fine. Yeah, didn't really appreciate it. Didn't also really appreciate the Riddler. Although I think, to be honest, the Riddler really did steal the show, because this was basically Jim Carrey at his like sort of high point of his career. You know, he was the biggest upcoming actor, and they got him and they played him the Riddler, and he really wasn't the Riddler at all. And it was a shame because they could have done so much more for this guy. But also, this is the film that also introduces Robin. Now, I've got to be honest though, I'm okay with an older Robin, because I think it would have been a bit wrong to have a young Robin in this film. But I am also really one of the probably rarest people in this whole world that actually liked the Robin costume. You know, because it fits kind of what a grown-up Robin costume would look like. You know, yes, it probably was more leather than probably like maybe material or whatnot, but it looked cool. Plus, minus the one thing that they did ruin about the Batman suits or universe was the bat nipples. Yes, bat nipples, and maybe also bat ass. You know, a bit stupid. Also, something that was quite stupid, it was Nicole Kidman. Like Michelle Pfeiffer and Kim Basinger, she was just there to look pretty, and this was probably the only time Nicole Kidman was actually really hot. I'm not really a big Nicole Kidman fan, but yeah, she was really hot in this film, and she basically did all in this film. Although this was not until we got to Batman Robin. Now, let's be honest, I'm going to be honest here, I did like Batman Forever for what it was, but I really don't like Batman Robin at all. Again, they did take Batman a completely different direction. They aimed it more and more at kids, and they got as much big stars as they could. First off, let's point this out, right? Bane is in this film. That was not Bane at all. That was just some guy that looked like Bane, probably had the venomous of Bane, but that was just not Bane. Neither was Mr. Freeze, because let's be honest, it was just basically Arnold Schwarzenegger in a Mr. Freeze costume with cheesy, stupid, and yes, funny one-liners. Although I've got to be honest here, right? They did try to focus more on Mr. Freeze's story, and he was the main villain. So what was with Poison Ivy in the whole film? Like, I finally decided, right, we need someone hot, right? We need someone hot. Yes, we're going to have Batgirl in this film. Get a turn in a minute. But we need someone else hot. So we got Uma Thurman to play as Poison Ivy, and I think that was a bad idea. And to be honest, Uma Thurman isn't really that hot, you know. Poison Ivy should be like the hottest sort of female in the Batman sort of universe. You know, guys, will fall in love instantly. In her case, is very poisonous, but it just feels as though this was like your mum playing, just cosplaying. Didn't really buy it. Didn't really buy also Batgirl, because this was also just someone dressing up as Batgirl. But this doesn't get to the biggest problem of it. First off, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, or shall I say, Nightwing wearing a cape, because this is basically Nightwing with a cape, and I'm completely like, what? I didn't realise those until like a couple of years, but again, I'm quite angered by that. But not as angered as Mr. George Clooney. Now, Mr. George Clooney is amazing right now. I loved him in Descendants, ER, and Ocean's 11, but this was really the film that he really should have stayed away from, and I think he has apologised for his role in this film. He made a good Bruce Wayne as a Batman. He was pathetic and rubbish.